This is a beautiful spot on Scotland's west coast, and it's quite an isolated spot, but to get here I had to pass through some of Scotland's most spectacular and most famous scenery, past some of its moors and mountains, before battling my way down pathless terrain, over sandy beaches and shoulder-high ferns before getting to this spot. However, it was certainly worth it. So the intended route was a 75-kilometre circuit up the West Highland Way, then down Glen Etive. But it was going to be tough after this. I wasn't sure if there was going to be a path down the shores of Loch Etive before returning along Glen Kinglass. It was going to be quite a trip. Anyway, let's go back to the start. And part one sees me starting off not in an isolated remote location, but on one of Scotland's busiest paths, the West Highland Way. Oh, good morning. Welcome to Scotland, and more specifically the west of Scotland, and even more specifically the West Highland Way. And I've hopefully put a introduction up explaining kind of what I'm doing this weekend. And I've stopped here, and you can see there's nobody in the path behind me, but I must have gone past about 20 or 30 people down towards Victoria Bridge, which is where I've started. I'm heading up onto Rannochmuir now, so I've taken this opportunity on the West Highland Way to stop and do a bit to camera, because I don't like doing bits to camera when there's too many people around. So this is the busy part, although it looks remote at the moment. I think if you want to go out and onto a trail where you can meet like-minded people in hordes, this is definitely a place. And I know it's probably one of the best known trails in Scotland. But if you're looking for Solitude, which is where I'm heading for Solitude after this, hopefully. I'll come on to why I've come this way and the route I'm doing, which I've kind of gone over in a wee bit of detail at the start of the video. But let me show you just what I'm looking at here. Some nice mountains, nice mountains that I can show you. Hopefully you can see me. I'll push my bike along here. So these are the hills of the Blackmount, Mialavuri and Creesha, which most people will do. They're Munros, but most people will do them from the ski centre. The Glen ski centre, because that's my next stop. Well, it's not, but I'm going past there in a wee while. So yeah, so far I'm at about 330 metres in height, and I've done about 200 metres already, so I've been rising up, so I'm looking forward to a bit of downhill in a wee while. So let's crack on a bit, and I'll report back in a wee while. Another reason I stopped here, got the camera out, is it's sunny. There's been a mixture of sunshine and showers so far. Let's hope for more sun. Right, I've made it to the high point. I think this is the high point of the entire 75 or 70 kilometres. I'm at about 450 metres, and the rain's still on and off. You can see blue sky behind me and above me, but yeah, the showers have been pretty heavy. In fact, there's been that big dollops of rain. There's been a few bits. It's either hail or snow, sleet, shall we say. In fact, I can see some snow in the highest tops. To give you some context, we're into the second weekend in June. But yeah, it can snow at any time in Scotland. So from here I'm going to head down to some beautiful views around the corner here, down to the head of Glen and the King's House, and then I'll be having had the toil up here. It's been quite hard work. It's been mainly ascending all the way up. I've done about 10.5 kilometres, and let me just check my watch. 350 metres of ascent. So it's been pretty slow, but I know the next bit. As I'm heading down looking for the Solitude lonely spot, I'm going to be freewheeling down one of the most beautiful glens in Scotland. But look at this is just wonderful. I didn't think I'd get snow-capped mountains in June. Right, I'll report back as I'm heading downhill. Okay, I've started to descend down now. It's a bit rocky. I don't know if you can see the path behind me. It's okay. I wouldn't fancy doing it on a bike without suspension, and my suspension's keeping my hands from getting numb. But wait till I show you the view. This is probably one of the most famous views in Scotland. Look at that. The Buchel. And it's the top's clear, which is lovely. So Yeah, it's absolutely, it's glorious now. It'd be nice if it stays like this, but I don't think it will. But yeah, I'm actually heading down here. There's a wee building called the King's House Hotel. I'll be heading past that and then coming off the West Highland Way and then heading to the left of where the buckle is down Glen Etive, and I'm hoping that's going to be a nice freewheel. But yeah, it's lovely. I hope it stays like this. Right, I'll bring you back when I'm at the King's House. I've decided to stop just shy of the King's House. I've got plenty of coffee and plenty of food with me, so I was going to stop in the King's House and get something, but you know what, let's have a wee bit here. This is such a nice wee sheltered area, so let's get the stove on, get some coffee and have a Scotch egg before I head on to probably the finest part of the journey, which will then be followed by the hardest part, I think, should my map reading skills be up to scratch. Right, let's get this done. Another heavy shower rolling in. I'm just sheltering down here. I literally just poured my coffee. It's too hot to drink anyway, but yeah, I did see this shower coming in from Glen. It always seems to rain here. It is called the Misty Glen. Is it called the Misty Glen? The Weeping Glen. Christ, I should know that, shouldn't I? I'll show you. You can see that it's kind of greyed out, the buckle. You just see a silhouette of it behind me. That's hopefully the rain's going to pass through. But anyway, as I said, I'll be heading down past the King's House, which is down there, then down to the left, between the buckle and Creesha, which is on that side. And that's going to be a nice, maybe down here, it's going to be a nice, hopefully, freewheel down the Glen. So, yeah, Glen Etive, it's quite a long drive. Lots of people, it's very popular for camping. I wouldn't say wild camping, I'd say car camping. It's one of these places which is getting a bad rep. But anyway, the road goes nowhere, and at the bottom, that's where it's going to start getting interesting for me. It's going to be a lovely freewheel all the way down there, but I'm not sure. I don't think, from the research I've done in the maps, does seem to be a footpath, but I think I could go from joyous freewheeling on tarmac to a lot of pushing my bike across pretty rough terrain. But anyway, let's get this Scotch egg and coffee and hope this rain passes before I get going again. It's Scotland. Right, let's go. So I had a bite to eat, and before long the shower passed, but it wasn't too long before another one came in, and I headed down, and I suppose on to part two, which was heading towards that lovely Glen Etive, where I was hoping for a lovely freewheel down the Glen to the part where the difficulties, well, where I thought the difficulties would start. However, that freewheel didn't turn out to be quite as nice as expected, as you'll soon find out. Oh, isn't that a fine sight? Well, apart from the metal fence bit which is in front of you, it's just got the camera sitting on top of a fence post. But I'm nearly coming off the West Highland Way, and this is part two now. I suppose it's heading down Glen Etive, and it's going to be quite nice riding from here on in. Well, from here to the bottom of Glen Etive, nice tarred road. As I said, this road goes nowhere. It's a bit of a nightmare to drive down if you've ever been down there. But I think it might be quite delightful to cycle down. So let's get going. I'll bring you back when I'm in Glen Etive. Oh. The rain's not stopped really since I had my cup of coffee. Anyway, that's me at the head of Glen Etive. Now you can see Buckle Etive Moor, which means the great herdsman of Etive. And yeah, down to the left there is where I'm headed. Busy old Glen though, I'll tell you, the amount of cars that have come past already is it's unbelievable. More than High Street back home. Anyway, let's keep going and I'll report back in a wee while. This is going to be fun. I think it's mainly downhill now until the difficult part. Woo-hoo. Alright, don't know if you can hear that. So much from a three-wheel down the Glen. It is blowing a hoolie right in my face. And there's about a zillion cars as well. Look at this. Look at that, that's just a few of them. Literally every 30 seconds there's cars coming past me, so yeah, this is a bit unpleasant. It's been years since I've been down the Glen. I didn't realise it got this busy. And I'm not even that far down, so anyway, right, let's go. I'll report back later on. Yeah, what a view. This is the view that most people, well, I certainly associate with Glen Etive as the, oh, I can't remember what it's called, Larig or something. And you can see it's between the wee buckle and the big buckle. It's absolutely fabulous. So, God, there's so many cars coming in. I'm going to have to move. I'll bring you back in a minute. Right, I've come well off the road. I must have counted at least, well, I've not counted them, but it must be 50 or 60 cars have gone past me. And not that many coming back, and this is a dead end road, so, so I don't know where they're all going to park when they get down here. Maybe there's a big massive pile of cars all rammed up at the bottom. But anyway, what a view this is over to the, I was just saying, I think that's between the wee buckle and the big buckle, the Larig something or another. But yeah, what a spot, it really is special. Lovely. And over this way is Ben Stararv, so I'll be skirting down to the right of Ben Stararv. Loch Etive, you can't quite see it, it's down there. And I'll be hoping to get a pitch. Beyond that, maybe in another, how many kilometres have I done? I've done 31 kilometres. I think I'll be getting to about 45 or 50 before I stop. But this is the easy part. It's going to get a lot more difficult shortly. Anyway, right, bring you back in a wee while. As you can see, the sunshine was short-lived, and before long another torrential downpour hit me towards the bottom of Glen Etive, and yeah, it was a bit wet. Doesn't that look idyllic behind me? But don't be fooled, it might look like summer behind me. I've just been absolutely drenched, and I'll show you what's coming. Oh wee, another rain shower coming in. That's Ben Trulickin. Had one of my best ever camps up there. Or maybe it's an old one, but I'll maybe put a link to it in the description. But yeah, it's really heavy showers been coming through. Here's another one coming. And this is where it gets tough. So this is part 3. The freewheel down Glen Etive wasn't quite as enjoyable as I had envisioned. And this bit here might be absolute hell. I think I've got about, let me have a look at my watch. Yeah, 9 or 10 kilometres to get to the place where I'm hoping to camp, a place called Armadi. I think there's a wee sandy beach there, but once this track runs out, I think I'll be pushing for most of the way. So let's see. Let's hope this rain goes off, because I could do with drying out. I do have waterproof trousers with me, but I've not put them on. I'll tell you why probably later on. Right, let's go into the rain. So off I set, and although I mentioned the thought that I was going to be pushing for most of the way down, I still had this kind of hopeful feeling that there would be a path and I'd be alright. But as you can probably tell by the title to part 3, it turned out to be, well, the stuff of nightmares, to be honest with you. And this was where I was hoping to head to, down the shores of Loch Etive. Oh my god, right, I'm about 100 metres from where I last did a bit to camera. The sun's out, which is good, but you'll see I've put on my waterproof trousers because there's no path. I mean, it's just, I mean, look at this, that's where the path would be down there. It's just, that's about a foot of bog, and yeah, it's just horrendous. And I did kind of expect it, but not this bad. I'm hoping the path picks up a wee bit as we go further on, but this is essentially pathless bog. So I'm going to take my helmet off, got my waterproof trousers on to keep my legs dry because of the water on the grass. Let's battle on. I think this could be a test of a wee bit of perseverance required, I think. So yeah, I'll bring you back later on. Let's go on. Right, update. I'm not going very fast, or not going anywhere very quickly. This is really tough going. The path's kind of coming and going, but it's just, when I say it's a path, it's, yeah, that's promoting it. It's nowhere near what I would call a path, and I'm surprised it's on the map, but anyway, looks like the rain's hitting the top of the Glen there. But anyway, I'm just about at the top of the loch. That's Loch Etive behind me there, so I'm going to drop down and see if there's anything better down, because it's just a sea of ferns now. That's going to be an absolute nightmare. So I'm going to drop down to the shore and see if there's a better path there, so let's go. Right, I'm just having a coffee, or making myself a coffee. It's about 3 o'clock now, and this is really hard going. There's a bit more of a path now, a lot better. Still not great. It goes through some long ferns and what have you, but it certainly resembles a path, which is a lot more than can be said of what it was towards the top of the loch. So I really need to eat. I've only had one Scotch egg and a bit of chocolate at just before the King's House, so yeah, another Scotch egg now and a wee bit more chocolate, and I think another few hours pushing the bike. I've not done any walking, I mean any cycling, should I say. It's all been walking. I've been pushing the bike most of the way, which is quite tiring. So I'm really looking forward to this coffee. So, oh, and down you go, just as the coffee's getting ready to boil. Right, there we go. Oh, it's so wet. Easy. Right, let's get this coffee. I had my coffee and some chocolate and felt a bit better, and as I'd said a little while ago, the path did seem to reappear, and you can see here there's a wee bit of shorter grass on a path, but that soon disappeared again, and I was soon humping the bike over rocky riverbeds, and it was crossing streams, and my hope of a path materialising were fading. It was pretty tough going, and some of these rivers, had it been really wet, it might have been a bit more difficult to cross. As you can see, it was a bit it wasn't too bad. There was boulders protruding, but if it wasn't rocky ground, it was shoulder high ferns that I had to push the bike through, which, as you can see, it looks like I'm making progress here, but this was actually really tough work. And when I got to this soft sandy bay, even though it was still a struggle to push the bike through, it was just so much easier than the boggy, ferny, rocky river crossings. I was glad to get to this point because I knew a potential pitch for the tent wasn't too far away. Alright, I think I'm going to try and find a spot round about here, because there's a fresh water supply behind me, and I don't think there's another one until I go past Ardmaddy, that I can see in the map anyway. So what a spot though, look at this beach. Let's see if I can find somewhere around about here. This bit here looks quite good. Yeah, I think I'll stick the tent here. Oh, right, let's get this tent up. There's something I need to do before I set the tent up, which is super important actually, and it needs to be done first. All will be revealed in just a second. And the most important thing here, I'm going to put my beers in to cool. I don't usually bring beer, and I'll come on to that. I'll tell you why later on, but for now let's get them in here, get them cooling, and hopefully they'll be nice and cool for me once the tent's up. Right, quick bit to camera. I've got the tent set up using some rocks because it's quite sandy. It's always quite useful to use rocks because the pegs won't stay in the ground. And I'm using the bike as well to just for one of the guy lines that lifts the outer off the inner. But it looks like it's going to open up the heavens. I was looking at it over here. This is where the rain's coming from, and up Glen Etive it's disappeared. So I think I've got set up just in time. So I'm going to dive into the tent and finish off setting up. I'm absolutely knackered. I'll come back to you in a wee while and I'll tell you what I've done today in terms of distance and ascent and what have you, but I am glad to be here, and what an idyllic spot. Look at this beach. Hopefully if it clears up, this rain passes over, I'll do some footage for you so you can see, but I'm going to go into the tent and finish setting up inside. I don't know if you can hear that, but that's the rain on. So that was perfect timing. Let's just hope it isn't on for the whole night. I can get out and enjoy some of the scenery, but yeah, I'm glad that I got the tent up when I did. Well, I keep wanting to go out and do a bit to camera, but the rain keeps coming on. I'll spin you around. I'm actually getting a bit worried. The water levels are getting closer and closer, and I don't know if you notice, this bit here was the stream and the tide's coming, and I earlier on realised that my beers were down there, so I had to run and get them. I thought they might float away, but I have got them, and yeah, they're there. I'm halfway through the first one, but it looks like the rain's coming back on. It's coming in from that direction over there, so oh yeah, you can probably hear that, but yeah, I'm hoping I'm not going to have to move the tent. The water is it's maybe 4 or 5 metres away now. It was about twice as far away as that earlier on. I have checked the tide times and it's meant to be going back out about half an hour ago, but it's still coming in here. I'll maybe recheck those. Anyway, right, I'll report back later on. Hopefully I can get the big camera out and the rain will have gone off, because I want to tell you about my beer and why I brought some on this trip. And I want to tell you about the day as well, but I'll give it a bit more time. If the rain doesn't come off, I'll probably just do a bit to camera on this camera, the wee camera, but yeah, at the moment it's not looking that great. Oh, right, still raining. Let's have a look at the tide. See how far in it's got. Oh, that's getting pretty close now. That's maybe, I mean, there's grass here. Surely it doesn't come up above the grass. Does it? Oh, bollocks. Yeah, I'll give that another half an hour. I can see which rock it's at. Yeah, it's not far away at all. If it comes any further, just hear that, the waves lapping, so I'm just going to check. I don't know, I think that's I don't know if it's getting closer or not. I think it possibly is, or whether it's just the waves. Oh man, don't need to move just yet though. Peeing it down. Right, I'll give you a tide update. Scotland's mountains, and it's all about tides and possibly flooding the tent. It's getting closer and closer though. We'll see. I think I'll be fine. I think I'll be fine. It stopped raining. I don't know how long it's going to have stopped raining for, because this looks like another big shower coming in. So I got the tent up just in time, and it's literally peed it down for the last 3 or 4 hours, and I've had a beer after rescuing it. You can see how much, I mean the tide's only like 2 or 3 metres away from me now. I have checked, I get a signal here and I have checked, and the tide times seem to differ. I sort of checked sort of a random spot on the west coast, and it said that high tide was like about an hour ago, but this has moved in by about 2 or 3 metres since then. So somebody tell me, any sort of seafarers, experts, the inland lochs, are their high tide affected? Like, does it come in about an hour or 2 later? It's going to be a bit late if it comes in, but yeah, it's still coming in, I think. So, well, let's see. Anyway, I was going to talk a wee bit about today. I think I can't get the stats up on my phone from my watch, but I think I did about 45 or 46 kilometres, and the West Highland day was fine. It was a bit rocky, but it was all rideable. A bit busy, but coming down Glen Etive was fine. It was a bit, well, it was blowing a hoolie actually. Although it was downhill, the strength of the wind basically cancelled out any downhill benefits, shall we say. And then coming along the track here, which is lovely, and I've not met another soul, and there's probably a good reason for that. That track, I think I've done about 20 metres of riding since I got to the end of the sort of Land Rover track. It's just one big bog, essentially. Every now and again the track appears. I've been pushing it through ferns. Oh, it's just been horrendous. And I think I'm now about, I don't know, a kilometre, maybe 2 kilometres from what I'm hoping is a nice dirt track for heading back tomorrow. It's about 30 kilometres, give or take, and I'm hoping that it's going to be better than this landscape that I've been on for taking the bike along. It's going to be uphill for most of the way, to be honest with you. This is, I don't know, but well, sea level. This is the sea. The reason I mean, you might have wondered when I was talking about being next to a water source for camping here, and I've got this this loch beside me. This is actually a sea loch, hence the seaweed, and obviously you can't drink seawater. So yeah, I'm hoping I'm not going to have to be doing too much pushing of the bike tomorrow. But yeah, it's been good today. Tough, but what a landscape! What a landscape! Some of the mountains I've gone past have been amazing. I mean, the Black Mount, I can't remember. Anyway, Krishad, Mialavuri, I think it is. Anyway, and then coming right down Glen Etive, the hills or mountains, the Buchel and the Wee Buchel and Ben Finlay, all these hills, and then Trelickin and Ben Starave and Glen Etive. And then tomorrow there's going to be more mountains, but yeah, this is just lovely. I hope the rain doesn't come back on, although it does look pretty ominous over there. Anyway, I think I might go and have my second beer now, and stay outside until it starts raining again. Oh, nice. This is a Workbench from Fine Ales, my favourite beer at the moment. Delicious, and thanks for Jerry. To Jerry picked these up for me. It's one of his local, it's his local brewery, so it saves me having to pay postage fees. Look at this, bit moody. I think that rain's going to come back on. Anyway, I was going to say I don't usually bring beer on a camp, and the reason for that is just the weight of it. The good thing about bringing the bike, and one of the reasons I like bike packing, is the bike carries all the weight. Although saying that, when I was pulling it and pushing it over the blooming rocks and the bogs, I was kind of wishing I didn't have the beer in it, but generally speaking, it's not on my shoulder. So if I go wild camping up a mountain, I'll always take whiskey, and the reason for that is I'm not carrying beer up the hill. And that just goes back to a video I watched. I think it was, I can't remember who it was. It was some YouTuber who was talking about lightweight backpacking gear, ultra lightweight. And he went out in the wild camp and pulled out a 6-pack of lager, which isn't very lightweight. But anyway, that is the rain on. It's big dollops of rain, so I'm going to head back into the tent. Ooh, oh dear, right. Ah. That was indeed the rain on for the rest of the night. Sat in the tent listening to it until I eventually fell asleep. Anyway, the next day the plan was to wake up and hopefully try and find a track. I really had been scunnered by pushing the bike through pathless terrain, but the plan was to get going, and the first stop was going to be a Bothy for a wee stop and a cup of coffee. But first of all, I needed to wake up and see what the morning was doing. Good morning. I've been up for about an hour. It's 7:30 and I've just been lazing about, to be honest with you, not doing much. It's not bad out there actually. It's in fact, let me show you. I'm not going to open the tent door because it's Midgegeddon out there. But you can see it's dry. I don't know if you can see that, if it's focusing or not, but it's dry, and looks like the sun might come out at some point. I'm just hoping that the breeze picks up a wee bit because I need a coffee, or I want a coffee, and I'm just not wanting to go out and be eaten by the midges. But at some point I'm going to have to leave this tent, so I'll report back when I'm making my coffee. I've come down onto the, well, closer to the shore just because there's more of a breeze here, and the midges aren't, well, if you don't know, midges don't like to hang around in anything above a slight breeze. So yeah, just about, I'm only about, I don't know, 7 or 8 metres from the tent. And I've got the stove going. But it looks like it's a nice day, which is grand. And one of the reasons I came on this trip was I had a free weekend. My wife's away this weekend, and I was planning to go and do a multi-day or a 2-day trip into the mountains, but you know, 50-60 mile an hour winds on the tops and snow, believe it or not. So that kind of put me off. So hence why I'm doing this lower level, and it's great fun trip. Right, that's my water boiling. Time for some well needed coffee. It's just something, I don't know, something about mountains and sea. Although this is, it's technically it's a sea loch, and it's almost fjord-like. It kind of infiltrates into the into the land, but just the sound of the sea lapping the shore is just lovely, and the mountains. That's one of the things that. This is one of the things I love about Scotland. I think, especially the west coast, is that mixture of mountains and sea, and the light you get with it. It's just lovely. And I've just been sat here with this wee breeze coming on shore. I mean, it's not warm, don't get me wrong, but it's pleasant enough. When there's wee dapples of sunlight coming every now and again, and when the sun comes out, it's absolutely gorgeous. It's lovely. It's a special place. Never ever take it for granted, that's for sure. So one of the things I sometimes do, a wee tip of the day, is if I'm not in a rush, which I amn't today, I'll leave the tent up for as long as possible, especially if it's dry. Well, only if it's dry, because if there's been rain overnight, it just allows it to air and dry off a wee bit. It's not as important today, because I've got the bike with me, so the bike's doing most of the work, like I mentioned last night. But certainly if I'm, I've got the rucksack out and I'm backpacking, and I've got everything on my back, the added water on the tent can be a bit heavy. Sometimes I bring a wee squidgy cloth to wipe it clean as well. I don't tend to get too much condensation with this tent, so it's usually not that bad inside, to be honest with you. I think it's just because the outer doesn't go right to the ground, if that makes sense. I'm sure there'll be some tent experts out there that will comment and let me know. It's always an expert, isn't there? Oh. Anyway, right, time to get the tent down. I'm not going to film that, and yeah, I've got about 30 kilometres to do today, there or thereabouts, so I'm really looking forward to getting onto a track. I think there'll be a bit of pushing along this beach, but in about a kilometre's time I should be off that, and hopefully onto a track of sorts. I just hope it's not going to be as bad as what that was yesterday. Anyway, right, let's get this tent down. Right, oh, it's roasting. I'm going to take a wee break here. I can see a 4x4 track. We're not out of the woods yet, so to speak, but at the end of this beach there is definitely a 4x4 track, so hallelujah, because that was a nightmare. Right, I'm too hot now. Let's delayer. Right, that's me delayered. Let's get along this beach now. You might be wondering why I'm not cycling along the beach, and it's just because the sand's really, really soft. And it's really hard to cycle on, so it's just easier to push if you are screaming at the telly saying, "Get on your bike and ride it, buddy." That's me happy. I think Look at this behind me, I don't know if you can make that out. I'll spin you around and show you some beautiful bays here. It's just stunning. And now that the sun's out, it's really quite pleasant. There's a slight breeze, so when I'm stopping like this, I ain't getting attacked by midges. But more importantly, let's spin you around the other way. I don't know if you can make this out. There is the start of the track. Boy, am I glad to see that. So let's head round to this Bothy and get a brew on round there, hopefully if there's nobody in it. But what a place, more mountains to come. I can see Ben Crook and I'm going to be heading up and then doing a loop round the mountains which are round this way, which are fairly impressive. So yeah, let's go. This is wonderful. Been back in the track and I've gone through some, I don't know if you can see that behind me, really old oak forest. And it's just, you know, everyone thinks about, well, I used to think about the forests in Scotland like old ones being pine forests, which I assume they are. I don't know enough about it. But a few years ago I went to, it's across the Curran ferry on the way to Corbett. I want to say Arundel. And what an amazing oak forest there is, and that was the same just there, just a wee pocket of it. And if memory serves me right, that forest used to stretch from Norway all the way down to Portugal, kind of hugging the coast. I think they called that a rainforest. But yeah, what a place. Anyway, look at this. Look what I am on. A road. Hurrah! Well, a track. Not quite a road, so let's crack on. Hopefully I'll find the Bothy soon. I'll get a coffee on. Here we go. Here's the Bothy. Stick the bike here and we'll go and have a wee gander inside. Let's get a brew on. Okay, so it's quite a basic Bothy. There's just an earth floor on it. It's quite nice, somewhere to sit down. Let's get a coffee going. I think there's a wee visitor book that I might sign as well. There's a couple of wee stoves and the fireplace there. I don't know if this is one that's run by the Mountain Bothies Association or whether it's run by the estate. I'm not too sure, but anyway, it's a lovely wee spot in amongst the woods. It's kind of got a Hansel and Gretel feel about it. Right, there's a nice wee stop in the Bothy. Signed the book, had a coffee, Scotch egg and some food, which was nice. So we're cracking on now. What time is it? Oh God, it's 10 past 11 and I've still got about 25 kilometres to go, most of which is uphill, about 300 metres of ascent I think. So yeah, let's get going. I've no idea what the track's going to be like. It's really nice at the moment, but I think that only goes as far as the estate house or whatever it is further up the Glen, and then it'll be back to hopefully not pushing, but let's see. Let's go anyway. I'll report back later. I left the Bothy and now I was on the final straight, although there was still quite a bit of work to be done. From looking at the map, I hadn't been up Glen Kinglass before, And I kind of thought that, I know that the next section was going to be the most descent on the whole trip. Not to the highest point, but because I was starting at sea level. And I wasn't quite sure what the terrain was going to be like before reaching a rather familiar spot. As you can see, the track's really good here. It's fantastic. Probably as good a track as I've had since, all the way around, apart from the tarred road down Glen Etive. Anyway, this is a wonderful glen. Oh, going uphill here. Whew. Granny gear. This is Glen Kinglass. Never been here before, and these mountains that you can see over my shoulder are the hills around about Ben Crook, and I can't remember how you pronounce it, Ben Unik maybe? Enoch. They're big hills. It just feels like a lovely, wonderful remote glen. Although this path takes me to a lodge, a hunting lodge. Beyond that, I think it's going to be a real feel of remoteness, and then beyond that, you might well recognise where I pop out, because I was wild camping there not too long ago with a couple of fabulous people. So let's crack on. This is just delightful now though. Yeehaw! That rain from yesterday's disappeared and at the back of my mind now, but look at this, wonderful. Behind me you can see the track, which has been delightful to cycle along. I've done about 14 kilometres on that in no time at all, which has been great. And Glen Kinglass Lodge, hunting lodge, is behind me. I think it's a hunting lodge. Look at that view, but now I'll show you what I'm going to be going on to. Better than what I've had, so if it stays like this I should be okay, but it's going to be slow going now. More like a dirt track as opposed to this lovely estate track. So let's see. We'll get up here. I've still got a fair bit of climbing to do to get up to the watershed and before heading down into the next glen. So let's go. And maybe another thing I was going to talk about is my feet, my socks, and also these silly gaiters I've got on. I'll explain all the next time I stop, but I want to see how far I can get up this path before doing that. So yeah, let's go. Well, I have to admit, as the path ascended up towards the Bealach, there was a lot of pushing. There was bits and bobs which I cycled, and I couldn't help but go across this wee Sugally bridge. If I'm being honest with you, I could have crossed it and forded it lower down, but it was just nice to go across it. It was interesting, not very wide either. And again, there was yet more river crossings, which required a bit of care and might be impassable if in spate. Well, a wee seat here, I think, and the pebbles. Oh, I've just not far from the highest point. Although it does say I've still got another 100 metres to go, but this feels like I'm almost at the Bealach. Anyway, the map can't be wrong, so I'll have a wee break here. I've just forded the river, and that leads me on to quite nicely talking about my shoes and my socks. So one thing that I always pack when I go on these multi-day trips is some spare clothes, and the socks that I pack as spares are always waterproof socks. I think the ones that I've got are made by Osprey or something like that. They're not cheap, but I only really take them on these multi-day adventures in case I get wet feet. And yesterday I got wet feet, even though I had the waterproof boots on and these gaiters, which I'll come on to in a minute. The ground was it was going up to my shins in the bogs, and it was just filling my boot up. So my socks and my feet were very wet yesterday. So today I put on my waterproof socks, and that's kept my feet dry wading through this this river. These gaiters aren't really waterproof, but so that's kept my feet dry. What these gaiters have done, I bought these about 5 or 6 years ago actually, and they came and they weren't what I was after. I was actually after sort of shin length, not full gaiters, but ones which go up to about there. And I thought these on the descriptions were that type, and they weren't. I think they're designed more for trail shoes. So I've never really used them, but I've used them on this trip and they've been brilliant. And I'll tell you for why. I always find when I'm on the bike doing these sorts of things that I get stones in my shoes. You know, the tyres kick up the dirt and it goes in over the top of the shoes. And you know what, I've had no dirt or grit in my boots with wearing these gaiters, so I can thoroughly recommend them. They were just cheap. I don't know what they're called, running gaiters, ankle gaiters maybe. They were just cheap from Amazon or something like that a few years ago. Anyway, right, I suppose I better get back to it. It is 1:45. So still a wee bit to go. I've done about 17 kilometres, so about halfway I reckon. We're getting back to the car. Right, let's go. Right, since the last piece of camera, I've been taking Mr. Bike for a walk. Done zero cycling. I just tried to cycle this wee flat bit here. This is about the only cyclicable bit that you can cycle on. God, I can't speak, I'm knackered. It's been pushing up rocky, boggy ground again. Not as bad as yesterday. But yeah, there's a wee puddle there which turned out to be about 3 feet deep, and I just about went over the handlebars. But anyway, it's downhill from here. Whether it'll be cyclable downhill now, I'm not Danny McCaskill, so, and the bike's laden. I've said this before. If the bike wasn't so heavy with stuff, and I know I could go lighter, but I don't choose to do that. It might be easier, but anyway, let's see. Look at this vista. This is one of my trips, and probably the trip I would have done had I known the weather was going to be good. That's another thing. This wasn't forecast, it was to be rainy today. But look at this. I'm hoping to go and do a circuit of all these Munros behind me here in a big 2 or 3 day expedition. Goodness knows when I'll get to do it. That's just one of the many items on the wish list. But anyway, let's shut up. Let's get going, and then I'll report down. There's a loch down here which you might recognise. As I said, I did a video not too long ago from that said lochin. So yeah, let's go. Right, I did say that you might recognise where I was headed to, and this is where I am. Do you recognise that loch? That's Loch Dochard. And this wee spit of land which is jutting out into the loch was where I camped 2 weekends ago, I think. One of the last videos anyway, with Ray from RS Outdoors and Jim from Boardman Outdoors. So yeah, that was beautiful. I'll put some footage up now in the morning. The mists were rolling across the loch. It was just fabulous watching the sun come up. That was an early start that day. But it was just a great camp. A bit less vigorous than this trip. Anyway, right, and the views of these hills is just, oh, a clegg on my hand there. Yeah, the views of the hills from here is amazing, but I've really enjoyed seeing the hills, or the views of these Glen Etive, what I call the Glen Etive hills, further up here, because I've never seen them from that angle before. My God, they looked impressive. I kind of stopped for a wee while and rested and took it in, took some pictures and all that sort of jazz. So anyway, I'm going to shut up now. I'm going to crack on. There is some river crossings, as you'll know, so I'm hoping the river isn't that high. Yeah, let's bring you back a bit further down the glen. That's the first ford a river crossed there. It probably doesn't look too bad, but that is significantly deeper than it was when I was here a few weeks ago. I would say about a foot deeper in places. The pannier racks were well and truly submerged. Well, not submerged, but about halfway up. So yeah, let's go. There's a second crossing which shouldn't be quite as bad, and I'll report back in a wee while. Not long to go. This is the final pool. That's been the final stretch. I'm only 3 or 4 kilometres away from the car now, and I'm on the final bit of good road. Look at that behind me. Yeah, and soon I'll be back on the West Highland Way just before getting to the car. I'll be back to the madness. It's been a great trip. Starting off with the West Highland Way, I suppose, and how busy it was, and then, breaky, better watch what I'm doing. Starting off with the West Highland Way and how busy it was, and then the busyness and madness of that road down Glen Etive, that was just crazy. But after that, it's been fantastic. I've hardly met another soul. In fact, I've only met, just about half an hour ago, a couple of German walkers. who are possibly doing a similar route to me actually. It's going to take them 4 or 5 days. And I think that's the benefit, that's one of the beauties of the bike. So I've done this in 2 days. If I was walking that, I think it would take me 3 or 4 days. Anyway, depending on it, having the big rucksack on as well. So not only does the bike carry a lot of the weight for you, you can cover a lot more miles using the bike, which is great. So, it's nice. Look at this ahead of me. You see the Georgie, Hills Benendoe and Ben Duran. Beautiful. Anyway, I'm going to shut up there. I really hope you've enjoyed the video. Something different. As I said, the only reason I was doing this was because the forecast was so bad. And look at it, it's been absolutely gorgeous. So anyway, hope you've enjoyed it. As always, stay safe out there. And I'll see you next week for another adventure. Right, back to the car. Right, the rain's gone off again. I just wanted to show you, I think I'm going to be okay. See how close the water's coming. I can see this line of seaweed. Let me just show you here. I think that's the high tide mark, although there is debris way up into the ferns, but I'm hoping that's like high neap tides and maybe storm surges, I don't know, but I'll show you where I was going to. I was going to camp over here, and I'm glad I didn't. This is the wee stream here, which is now part of the loch down there. That's where I had the beers, I had to rescue them earlier on. But this bit of grass, which is pretty much submerged, sort of there, I was going to put the tent there because the tide was away out over there somewhere. So I'm kind of glad that I didn't pitch there. That would have been a bit of a nightmare. Anyway, I've got my sleeping system is, I've just got my summer stuff. Sea to Summit Spark 2 and a sleeping bag and a Sea to Summit ground mat. So it's a summer one, although it has been really cold for June, but I'll still be fine. I think it's to get down to single digits, 7 or 8 degrees. But yeah, I'll maybe run through the other sort of bits of gear that I've got. What I did do was the yellow bag that I had on the handlebars, it's a dry bag and it had my tent in it. So the things that I really needed to guarantee keeping dry were in dry bags, and I've got a big Lomo dry bag inside my rucksack, and in there I had the sleeping bag and ground mat and some spare clothes, and then in the pannier racks I had everything in smaller dry bags, but I find the smaller dry bags don't work as well as the big thick ones, if that makes sense. I mean, they're fine, but in torrential rain I've noticed that they can sometimes fail. But anyway, there you go. And on the top of this thing here, that's on my bike all the time now, this wee doodah there, it's got things like puncture repair kits, pumps, tools, Allen keys, bike tools, all that sort of stuff. Touch wood, I've not had to use it yet. But, anyway, right, I'm going to retire to the tent. I think I feel safe. I feel safe that that tide isn't going to come any further. So it's at 10 o'clock now, and yeah, we'll see you in the morning, and hope this rain isn't too bad during the night. Right, see you in a few hours.